Pre-heaven Chi, what is it and how is it different from post-heaven Chi? What is original Chi? There are different ways of looking at energy that we use within Taoist alchemy. There's different frameworks that we can use to understand what we're experiencing in the body and inform our practice. So there is the Jingqi Shen, right? Is essence, energy, and spirit, often translated as, and that is a very useful way of chopping up energy in the body. But today we're going to set that aside, and we're going to look at pre-heaven Chi and post-heaven Chi. Pre-heaven Chi, also called original Chi, or sometimes altogether the 先天元 Qi. Alchemists generally agree it's the good kind, it's the kind we want to work with, but practitioners and different lineages sometimes have differing views on what it is and how to work with it. So today I'm going to share my own experience with my teacher, Wang Liping, and the Dragon Gate lineage, and share how we in this lineage use pre-heaven Chi. And this talk is really, it's for probably best for practitioners that are actively within the lineage, but those of you who do other stuff, you may be interested, so you're welcome here as well. So first thing is that we'll start a little more philosophical, is that terms, definition for terms are important. And within our practice as practitioners, it's very beneficial to have clear definitions for the various terms that we use to help understand our practice, right? There's two things with that. First, it's always important that our experience and the practice leads what we're doing and not the mind and the terms. Okay, so what you're experiencing when you're on the mat sitting, that's more valid than understanding intellectually what I'm talking about here. But, you know, terms can help too. Understanding definition of terms can inform our practice and give context to our practice. So let's chat a little bit about it. Now, first thing. Second thing is that within China and within Chinese practice of energy arts, internal arts, and whatnot, especially with internal alchemy and the Taoist stuff, terms are relative. They do not have a fixed assigned meaning. They don't have a fixed meaning. So the meaning of a term shifts depending on context, depending on what we're doing at that time, usually in a session. Right? So the context will be defined by what the heck we're doing. If we're trying to activate the lower dantian, then we're going to use certain words and certain terms that are going to have certain meaning. And so it can be tricky for outsiders to appreciate that. It gets a little crazy when terms start coming up with different meanings. Why did the meaning shift? Why is it meaning something else? Okay, so my advice is just stay really loose with the definitions. We are going to have clear definitions, but it's always relative to something else within a framework of practice. Okay, so enough of that philosophical jibber jabber. Let's get down to it. Pre-heaven Chi, pre-heaven original Chi. Now, because everything is relative, we got to bring that back a little bit. Because everything is relative, what is pre-heaven original Chi, or the 先天元 Qi, will change. It does change. What it is not fixed. So if we're looking at it from a Chinese medical perspective, then the 先天元 Qi is the Qi that our parents gave us at conception. Right? It's parents that we get through the egg and the sperm, comes together, it's a flash of light, everything's good, and that original Qi gets built into what is given birth there, right? However, 先天元 Qi, the pre-heaven original Qi, in that context means that. But if we're comparing our whole body and all the energy in it with the natural world around us, say you're going for a walk in the forest, there's lots of Qi out there in the trees and the grass and, you know, up in the sky as well, because the natural space within Taoist practice, we also consider the cosmic space as well, stars and all that kind of stuff. They all have this wonderful chi, and we can learn to work with that chi through Taoist practice. But my point is that at that point, then that chi, all that good, yummy chi, is pre-heaven original chi. And all the chi in our body, including the original chi from our parents, now becomes post-heaven chi, right? So it's contextual. It depends what you're looking at. Now, in general, when we use the term pre-heaven, 先天, we're talking about stuff, an original state before it's given birth into three-dimensional reality with time and space, right? So there's kind of this distinction that pops up all the time in Taoist thought and Chinese thought, right? Is we have a before and after the Big Bang. And that Big Bang is happening in every moment. So in every moment, our 3D reality is given birth. And the question is on how are you looking at that event, right? If you're seeing it from a pre-heaven experience, you're seeing it before it is given form into the 10,000 things, right? If you're looking at it from post-heaven, you're seeing all the 10,000 things and kind of like it came from somewhere, right? So that's pre-heaven and post-heaven, right? So pre-heaven is before the Big Bang, post-heaven is the realm of phenomena and all this stuff, right? And so the chi is the same. In general, right? So that's why when we talk about in medical theory, prenatal chi is before you're given birth. It's all that chi that we carry with us, that is our innate ability, right? And then we are given birth, and then throughout our life, we develop more chi, or chi is depleted. That situation is our post-heaven situation. You can also it's used in modern Chinese too, like if someone has an innate ability to play piano, right? They just, they're 5 years old and they're composing concertos and whatever, then that is a pre-heaven talent. It's a pre-heaven ability. If you're like most of the rest of us here who have to, practice the instrument very hard for long periods of time, then that's post-heaven. You're over through the course of your life, you're developing this skill, and that's a post-heaven perspective, right? So that skill is developed post-heaven. Now, we can look at internal arts the same way, right? So there's methods of practicing where we are just working hard and developing a kind of energy that's associated with the physical body after birth, and working to make more of it, usually make the energetic system more efficient, activate it, mobilize it, all that kind of fun stuff. And that is post-heaven chi, right? For our perspective. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, because we have these different contexts, and different lineages and different traditions will approach from different perspectives, right? So again, it's all relative. What are you? Pre-heaven and post-heaven is relative. So, for example, there are numerous lineages of Qigong that that approach post-heaven Qi as our breath. So the normal breath going in the nose, into the body, oxygenating the body, all that yummy stuff, good stuff, I like breathing, is post-heaven. And so when they see Hou Tian and they're working with post-heaven, that's what they're talking about, working with the breath. There's certain ways of practicing where that is true. And then the xiantian, the pre-heaven, will be the actual energy within the body, the experiences usually experience yang qi the most, right? So you have, tingles, fuzziness, warmth, all that kind of stuff, all that movement of energy within the body, and perhaps the yin qi as well. That is then pre-heaven, compared to the breath, which is post-heaven, right? And you can do the same with the jing. Post-heaven jing is the actual sperm, where pre-heaven jing is something else. But let's stay away from jing qi shen today. Let's focus on pre-heaven and post-heaven. So there is one context, right? And it's a normal context. It's a great place to start. But for us, if you're practicing in this lineage, then you'll want to go deeper. The way we use the terms pre-heaven and post-heaven, we generally don't talk about the breath in that way. For us, post-heaven chi is just the normal yang chi you build up often in foundation training. So working with various forms of I mean, foundation training, generally speaking, in our lineages, you can do Daoyin, martial arts, Qigong, Neigong, different practices that get our mind into our body and begin working with the energy in the body, opening up the channels, opening up the ren and du meridians, getting everything ready for doing the cool alchemical stuff later on. And in the context of internal alchemy, generally, post-heaven chi is that stuff, is that kind of energy. So then what is pre-heaven chi, right? What is pre-heaven original chi from the perspective of internal alchemy within our lineage? Well, it's energy, but it's a different kind of energy, right? Don't think Jing Qi Shen here. Just stay with the word energy or chi. And I'm very comfortable translating chi as energy because it's a substance, energetic substance that works. And I think energy it's just a word that is easy to use. As long as you're actually experiencing it, then it's not an issue. Pre-heaven, so the pre-heaven original chi in our lineage compared to the post-heaven stuff is found within the body, but we need to go through certain procedures to activate it, tune into it, and explore what it is, right? And it is different from the normal post-heaven energy that we build in Qigong and a lot of these other practices, right? Every lineage is different, so I'm just making sort of a general blanket statement here. But in general, so what we're doing in internal alchemy is we're tuning into a more profound form of energy. And I think the easiest way to distinguish the two is within the lower abdominal cavity. Many practices, like Tai Chi, Qigong, internal martial arts, Neigong, a lot of practices all agree we want to build energy within that lower abdominal cavity. And that's the Dantian, want to build up this Dantian. Now, for us in internal alchemy, a little different. Yes, we want to build up that lower abdominal cavity full of qi, but that's just post-heaven qi, and it's not a dantian for us. The dantian, so if we think of that as spherical space that has lots of, you can feel warmth and movement and, shivers, all sorts of, the energy feelings that you get inside there. Great, but what we want is to build a field, a sphere within the middle of that, that we call the lower field. Until there's a dan in it, we don't call it the lower dantian until they actually have formed an elixir. It's just a field, an empty field that we begin to access pre-celestial chi within. And the difference is the post-celestial chi is random, it's messy, it's unregulated, there's no pattern to it. Pre-celestial chi has a pattern. It is regulated, patterned movement. And that's the distinction that we as practitioners use to determine which one it is. So if you haven't found a regulated, patterned movement within your lower field, you're not there yet. So keep going. Keep going, you'll get there. It just takes time. And what I mean by regular patterned movement is, if we think of energy as a frequency and represent it as a sound wave or a sine wave, right? So you have this it has peak, it goes up and down. It's a frequency that's moving. Now, if it's patterned movement, then it'll be the same, right? The ups and downs, the peaks and the troughs, and the speed of it won't change. It'll be very patterned, right? It won't be this and that and fuzzy and stuff going on. That's good stuff. It's very, very good for our health and whatnot. But for internal alchemy, to really go deep with internal alchemy, and we want to get to the regulated patterned movement. And it can take, there's a specific procedure that we use to get there, that involves certain methods structured in a very specific way. And the other thing, well, I'll go into that in a moment, but the other thing I want to say is that this pre-heaven Chi also has its own intelligence. So with post-heaven Chi, within this context, we use our mind more to know what we're doing and figure out, okay, I got to open this channel because my kidneys aren't online yet, and I got to do something here, and I checked my pulse diagnosis yesterday, and it's this, and so it's kind of we got to drive the car with it. With pre-heaven Chi, it's driving. It has intelligence. It knows what it needs to do. It knows you don't need to go and sort of open certain channels because it'll just do it for you. It'll naturally rebalance and recalibrate your whole system. If your spine needs to open, it'll just go there. If your liver is deficient, then it'll go there. It just it does what it needs to do, and so in order to access it, we need to give it space. We need to give it stillness. We need to sit in long sessions of stillness. So this kind of chi is really tricky to access if you're doing jianzhuang, standing, or moving practices. Those are better for post-heaven. But if you really want to get into work with this kind of substance, cross-legged sitting meditation, where you can just forget the physical body. You just set up the physical body, right? You regulate the physical body, put it in the right posture. Then you go inside and you can forget the physical body, because this kind of chi is beyond the physical body. It's also an opening. It's a mysterious path that we're opening inside the body that phases us into a non-material plane of existence. You're still sitting in your room or whatever, but part of you isn't. It's kind of interesting. Kind of you phase somewhere else with it. You begin to transcend time and space and 3D reality by tuning into this energy, getting in touch with it. And so to do that, sitting, you got to do a cross-legged sitting, at least from my experience in the way that Master Wang teaches it. And then our sessions will be split up between doing and non-doing, or yo wei and wu wei. You might have come across these two terms before. And the yo wei is we're doing stuff in time to get something done. So that might be pore breathing, lower abdominal breathing, lower field breathing, working with various, opening up the malyo-cosmic orbit, the microcosmic orbit, whatever. We're doing things. We're using techniques and methods to get things done, and that's good. That's great, good stuff. But at least halfway through the session, and we want to go into stillness. Right? Stillness it's so fundamental to this practice, and it's fundamental because without stillness, I don't think we can tune into that pre-celestial chi, the pre-heaven chi that I'm talking about here. And so what we do for the second part of the session is we turn around our observation and look within, gather in our senses and listen within. We look within, watch the changes of the human universe. We listen within, listen to the sounds of the human universe. And here changes is a kind of a Taoist code word for energetic activation, right? So we just focus within. We just did a bunch of stuff, we just breathing with this and that and opening this and that channel and just whatever that is. There's this, wherever you are in your practice. But then we go into stillness, and you focus inwards, and you don't do anything. You're aware and you follow, right? And that's because we need to give space to the pre-celestial chi, and it might take time to come online. Initially those we need to have long sitting sessions, right? So sitting for a few hours with our legs crossed to allow that activation to happen. give it space, because you can't control this kind of chi. We've got to give it space, tune into it, just be with it, and then just follow what happens with it. And it's a different mode of practice, and that's when we can really start getting into the internal alchemy side of things within our lineage, anyways, right? Okay, so yeah, two kinds of chi there, a way of distinguishing them in a new way. And of course, every teacher is going to have their own way of talking about this stuff. They may have access to what I just described. They may not, but they might have their own things going on, right? So yeah, so that is the pre-heaven chi from the perspective of our lineage of internal alchemy. Hope it was useful. I'll see you next time.